Hello, and welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
I'm Josiah Robinson, co-host of the podcast How Star Wars Is It?
And I'm Mike Gospel, also co-host of the podcast How Star Wars Is It?
Oh, look at that. We got a match.
2 co-hosts.
Welcome back, guys. Thanks for continuing to talk about credits with us, because that's what we did. We finished the actual movie. Now we're digging into the credits.
Finally, we made it.
You did it. We did it. Today we're talking
actors.
about... Yeah. Today we're talking about minute 134. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. 134 starts with visual effects supervisor Roger Guyett. And then, visual effects supervisor Bor Gullet. And it ends with not ampersand, but Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
William December Williams himself.
Yeah, a bunch of actors.
Right off the gate, I wanted to mention the music again.
Yeah.
Because we have...
What are we hearing now?
So we have... Yesterday we had the Star Wars main title, Rebel Fanfare. Then we go into what is called the friendship motif. And then I believe that's what plays through all of this minute is the friendship motif.
Oh, friendship.
Yeah. So we don't get into the next ones are go into the next minute. So this one is, I think it goes from Rebel Fanfare into friendship motif during this minute. Which friendship motif didn't have a name. It just said friendship motif on Wikipedia. So I don't know what that is.
I wonder if that's new from is that like what we hear with like when Poe and Finn are talking to each other or something like that?
Maybe. I think it has to do with
friends.
the new... It's definitely the sequel trilogy. So it's definitely a sequel trilogy song for sure.
Right. All right.
But it's nice.
Friendship
it's good music.
motif.
John Williams doesn't miss.
It's true. One thing that you can always say about these.
Turns out
John
the real
Williams did a
Star
good
Wars
job.
was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like John Williams.
So my first note is about Carrie Fisher being the first name on the roll call of heroes here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we finish, but we get production people before we get to the cast a little bit, and I just wanted to shout out Creature Effects Neil Scanlon, because he is a sorcerer that I like. Yeah, I've talked about this before, but there are 2 times in my adult life where I point to just being like awed by essentially what I believe to be magic. And that was like, one was an actual magic show. One was part of the circus where it was like somebody did something that I had no explanation for how they did it. And seeing Neil Scanlon do the thing from Solo, that 6 Eyes mask from Solo, where it's, thinking that it was something that was completely computer generated and looked weird, and then seeing him just like put it on the table in front of us and hold it up in his hands and have it be going, and like the animatronic creature effects have taken leaps and bounds in the last several years, and Neil Scanlon, I think the main one behind it here, or at least the supervisor for it here, and so he and his team did an amazing job across all these movies, all 5 of the Disney era movies so far.
Absolutely.
That is always...
We saw nine Nanba mask. We saw various Mon Calamari masks. We saw, a bunch of creature masks in this one.
In this, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always really cool seeing a real creature that, whether it's physically puppeted by a puppet performer or these like animatronics that in fact are like real, especially if your reaction was, I thought this was computer generated. Like, that's just really impressive.
Yeah, well, and I thought it was like, I was kind of bristling at it. I was like, more computer generated monsters.
Sure.
And then to just see it, literally be in the same room with it and be like, what is going on? How is this real? It was a little bit, you guys are big BB-8 fans. Same idea when I saw the trailer for BB-8, and I was like, great, a computer-generated, like thinking about like the special editions and stuff. I'm like, great, I'm going to throw in more computer-generated robots, and then seeing them wheel out on the stage and being like, that is real.
Yeah.
This exists in reality.
One of my very favorite sort of diagrams or drawings is like how they operated Jabba. Like all the different people inside doing different things. I love that stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
And going back to the it wasn't called The Making of Return of the Jedi. It was like creatures and something.
From something to something.
Yeah, everybody's yelling at me now. But the basically The Making of Return of the Jedi video that was out for a while, where they
let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, where they go through. They talk to all those people. As on set, and they're just kind of like the little guy in the tail who's just rowing it. And
it's a living.
Good stuff. Yeah, exactly. The dinosaur that ate his garbage.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And then quick note about casting. I didn't even write down who the cast. Was it Nina Gold? I think is the main head of casting. There's 3 people, but it's got to be a weird thing to do, to cast people in. Like, how many? It's the last part of the saga. Who's playing most of the people,
right?
Like all the main characters. Plus, JJ's got these people that he wants to bring in.
Yeah.
Like the cast, you're doing it for like a lot of side characters and background characters. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, so it's interesting job to have. Or be like, wait, you're casting the new Star Wars. Oh, but there's been 9 other ones. 10 other ones before this one, and 8 of which we're using, characters from those, and they're going to be in this, and you don't have to worry about them. But
she probably watched a bunch of self-tapes of older women British character actors reading for Who Are You, Rehu?
Who are you, Rehu?
Exactly.
Now, I remember this goes way back. So like I was in college before Force Awakens came out, and that's when the there was like a worldwide casting notice of like, send in your videos to be in the new Star Wars movie. And me and my friends were all like, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna send in our videos. And so like I remember one night in college staying up very late, filming and editing actor submissions of me and my 2 friends who had like gotten the sides of the script and everything, and had like filmed these like probably pretty bad auditions, and sent them in. And I think that like I think that we missed the window of submission by like an hour or something crazy like that, where like we just barely didn't get it in there. Which is all that to say, I would have been in Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
And me and my 2 friends, we've all been cast as Rey, Finn, and Poe. I know.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, Josiah, because I had just moved here to Chicago months prior to that, and in that casting effort, that was a marketing stunt.
It was a marketing ploy, yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
But
because they ended up casting Oscar Isaac, who was already like a pretty well-known actor.
Right. But they had some representatives go to different cities, and one of them was Chicago, and there was this line. I took a day off of work to stand in this line that we moved a little bit in the time that I stood there, but I stood there for probably a couple of hours, and it was many city blocks. In fact, still when I'm kind of in that neighborhood, I'm like, oh, that's the Starbucks I went to before I got in line for Star Wars. And I was holding a headshot and resume like I had some shot at making it into Star Wars, and the sun went down, like nobody got anywhere. And then like at some point, someone had at least the decency to walk the many blocks of people standing in line and say like, no one else is getting in at this point. Feel free to go home. If you have a headshot and resume, I'll take it. Like this poor sweet person is just like walking around with a stack of papers.
Like this tall.
Yeah. You want me to throw that out for you is what they were saying.
Yeah, we'll throw this in the trash for you on the way out.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But I felt so... I moved here to do improv and to do acting and stuff, and I was working at a grade school at the time, and I felt like so cool getting to tell the like 8-year-olds, I'm gonna go audition for Star Wars tonight.
Yeah.
Which is embarrassing that I felt cool.
No, that's what it taps into all of us, the 8-year-old inside of us.
So what was your excuse for not landing the part. His was too late. What's your reason for not
Mike.
getting it?
Well, I can kind of pull the too late card too, because like I'll just say this. Here's my like headcanon. They really didn't care about the people whose headshots and resumes they took after they closed.
Yeah.
Like had I been further in the line, they would have really put me in a good, I would have made the next round at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh,
Yeah.
that would have been such a different outcome. You wouldn't be on the show right now, probably.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to let you both know that Alex and I have access to a time machine, and we went back and messed with both of your auditions just in order to make sure that the show went
It was for
according
your
to
own
plan
benefit.
for us.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So like,
Honestly,
we want to have you guys on.
Yeah.
So like, in
Sure.
order to do that, we can't get them because they were in Star Wars. Well, it's like,
I prefer
What
to be
if?
on this show. Honestly, I think that my life is better in this timeline.
We'd both be names you'd see on some random day of the year that's like, happy birthday today to background actor.
Background Josiah.
Yeah.
we'd be talking about you guys next week.
This is a question we put to many guests over the years, and if you guys did, let's suppose Lucasfilm's like, hey, you know what? We love your podcast. We want you guys to be in the next episode. Just, background parts, cameo parts. What type of role would you want to do? Alien, Imperial
Oh, man,
officer, robot, human? Do you want a speaking part?
I don't know what Mike's gonna say. I want to be a funny stormtrooper. Because that's a weird.
That'd be a fun thing for us to be able to do together.
Exactly.
Kind of like
That's a
there
weird
you
like
go, yeah.
sub category in Star Wars of like stormtroopers who get to like be kind of a visual gag. Like when Kylo Ren's throwing a fit and the stormtroopers walk in and then they go, when they turn around and leave.
Yeah.
Or the ones
There
in The
you go.
Mandalorian that were literally played by the comedians like Adam Pally and
Jason
someone-
Sudeikis, one of them.
Yeah.
Jason Segel, something like that.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
funny stormtroopers or visual gag stormtroopers. I think that'd be what I would pick. I'd be like, put me in a make me a visual gag stormtrooper. I can have one line if you want. I'll do a joke, and that's what I wanted. That's all I want.
Yeah, a joke sort of like, I'm 5'7". I don't know what too short for a stormtrooper is. That would be a fun thing for both of us. I would also love to do some kind of masky thing, like a Rhodian or like I too love the design of Greedo. I think he looks incredible.
Yeah, Mike has a
I'm trying
lot
to
of
reach
Greedo action.
one of my nearby
figures.
Greedos.
Oh yeah, I have a whole
I had to get
Greedo
There's
shelf
Yes.
that you can't see because of this microphone. Oh, you have one handy?
I actually there we go.
It's
Two
Oh,
Greedos.
nice.
Classic.
I don't know why I've got two.
Always two there are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the lime
Yeah.
green.
Oh, I guess this one is Beto.
teal.
I don't know.
I've got that. In fact, here, let me move this microphone a little. Oh, it's so far back there. You probably can't see it, but I've got different generations of the same figure.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
the Greedo family.
Exactly.
Well, any more behind the scenes people you want to highlight before we move on to the actors and actresses?
No, yeah, let's talk about cast.
Carrie Fisher coming in hot at number 1.
Top
Yeah.
build.
Yeah, so
I'm assuming this was because Mark Hamill was going to be the first build, and he was like, all right, I'll let you have Carrie. Carrie Fisher can get the first billing as long as I'm the first living person in the cast. You know what I mean?
didn't
Although
he get first billing in The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
I can't
And
remember.
then
The
Harrison
story I
Ford
remember
got it
was
in
like
Force
The Force Awakens is the Han movie, and then The Last Jedi is the Luke movie, and they were gonna make this one be like the Leia movie, and then of course that plans had to change.
Right.
But yeah, I think they stuck with it with
Yeah.
that idea. Then ironically that Carrie Fisher is in she dies in the course of the movie, but she's in the movie as a living character for most of it, whereas Mark Hamill is not.
Mm.
But because Carrie Fisher, the person, was not living, she's first. And Mark Hamill is living, but his character wasn't, but he goes second.
Right.
It's confusing.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a holdover from like a previous plan where they were like, let's do this to honor her. And not necessarily because of the movie itself or anything like that. Or I guess she does have technically more screen time than Mark Hamill on this one, but definitely feels like an honorific kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I wonder, again, going back to the ampersands, like, I wonder, like, did they have to negotiate that credits order? Like, did they have to go back to the, representation of the other people and be like, hey, look, so we're going to put Carrie first. Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That stuff is all hashed out by agents and
Right.
people in the studio and stuff. So
Right.
speaking of which, Adam Driver top billing over Daisy Ridley.
Yeah, that was weird to
Even
me.
though Daisy Ridley's in a lot more of it, Adam Driver does not speak in the last third of the film. We discovered. But I guess he's a bigger star.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Yeah,
it
I think
comes
that's
down
it.
to.
That he's bigger name.
Yeah.
That could have been a negotiation. He could have been like, look, I'm sick of this stuff.
Yeah.
And like, all right, I'll be, give me, top billing among the new kids, and also I'm not going to come back to do ADR, so like, you're going to be screwed on the last third. Act 3, not going to say a word. But
He
I'm
truly
gonna
is
say
the
one
son
word. I'm
of.
going to say Al.
He is truly is the son of Han Solo, and then
Yeah.
Harrison
Yeah.
Ford is also the grouchiest about appearing in a Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, which segue wise, there's no Harrison Ford.
Yeah, not credited.
Oh yeah, he
I
is
wonder-
in this though.
Right.
Does that
Harrison Ford.
Does that show up on the, like, if you look it up, does it say, like, on IMDb, does it say, like, Han Solo
maybe.
uncredited
That's a good question.
as in this movie, or does
I
he
guess
come
we'll have to
later
watch the
when
rest
they
of-
actually show
we'll-
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to watch the rest of the credits and
That's
see.
true.
We'll have to
If
watch the
if you
credits.
say so, Alex, I guess we'll have to watch the rest of the credits.
Although it does seem like one of those kind of things where Harrison Ford should be like the top bill, like Marlon Brando being in Superman, even
Right,
though he's
yeah.
only in it for 2 minutes.
Right.
The Harrison
Right.
Ford's appearance in this is such a big deal that it really should be the number one thing. But
Yeah.
maybe Harrison Ford's
But maybe that was
modest.
part of it. He didn't. They're like, do you want top billing? He's like, I don't want anybody to know I was in that.
Yeah. He's like, I'm done with this.
Totally.
I died.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be
I
done.
don't care
Yeah.
what you do.
It is on IMDb as parentheses uncredited.
Oh,
How
wow.
wild.
That's interesting.
There you go. So are we sure it's him?
Wow.
Is it like,
CGI.
maybe it's like that guy who was the voice, the singing voice of Michael Jackson when he was
Yeah.
contractually unavailable.
Uh-huh.
Like, is that do we think is there a fake Harrison Ford out there?
Or Tom Hanks'
I thought he
brother.
looked a little.
who
Yeah,
does all the
exactly.
video games of Toy Story and like the toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought he looked a little Alden Ehrenreich-ish when he was on the
There you
screen.
go.
So maybe that's how they kind of got around that
Yeah.
that thing.
I
How
love,
much popcorn would have been thrown at the screen if, during that flashback scene, if it was Alden Ehrenreich instead? He's like, "Hey, kid," and he turns and it's Alden Ehrenreich, and he's like,
He's
That would be
younger than
great.
Adam Driver.
"Yeah."
I
Anyway,
love
what were you gonna say, Mike?
a cast credit as like a clause as opposed to just a name, like the with and the and
Mhm.
we've
Yeah.
got one of each of those for sure, but right in the middle of this list it's Anthony Daniels as C-3PO between Oscar Isaac and Naomi Aki, and then a whole bunch of other just like their first and last name. That was funny to me. I don't know why. I feel like those ones that are partial sentences kind of all come at the end of those sort of single name cards.
Well, especially the people who were behind masks. Kenny
yeah.
Baker, David Prowse. Like, I feel like they're literally Peter. I said Peter Mayhew already, but C3 Anthony
Jonas,
Daniels, Kenny
yeah.
Baker. They would
Uh-huh.
say Kenny Baker as R2D2, and I guess that just carried over.
Yeah, right.
So-
It was,
But yeah,
I
that's got to be
guess it's-
grandfathered into C3PO's clause.
right.
C3PO's clause.
Yeah.
Yeah, his agent.
Eunice doesn't get that. He just shows up. He's a Eunice Suetamo. What I'm not sure.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
mangling that. Sorry to all my. But
Yeah.
it doesn't say as Chewbacca.
No,
it's just,
right.
He's just credited as a creature performer
That's
Yeah.
true.
or
Better
as an
agent.
actor.
Although, I don't know.
you know.
Is that a better agent or a worse agent than Peter Mayhew?
Yeah, I don't know.
Peter Mayhew had Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca, which definitely draws your eye to it. So
Yeah.
Right.
I think if I was an actor and I got big enough, I would say I always want my character to be an Alex Robinson as blank. Like,
No matter
that,
what.
I would insist on that. I'll take
Yeah.
a pay cut just for have that be part of my
Yeah.
my deal.
Yeah.
So
Way late, like even after this movie was filmed on location, no animals were
Yes.
harmed,
Yeah.
like copyright
Special
purposes,
thanks to
whatever. Then at the very
Alex
end,
Robinson.
and Alex
As-
Robinson as
Yeah.
Goober.
Alex
You know.
Robinson will return.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Oscar Isaac. John Boyega listed before Oscar
Yeah.
Isaac, which is interesting. Makes I'm not. I don't know how. Like in my mind, we're always complaining about the because Finn was given a lot less to do overall. I mean, and he does some stuff in this where he kind of finds his again, going back to having read that summary. I think the summary of the Duel of the Fates script did a lot more than anytime I was just like, oh, maybe I'll look through this, and I just couldn't get it going. But then reading the summary, I was like, oh, it does look. There's some interesting things in there. Like,
yeah,
there's the whole thing with Finn leading a stormtrooper rebellion, and that seems cool. And that seems like and his actual on-screen stuff is always a little bit disappointing compared to what could have been with his story arc since The Force Awakens. And so interesting to see him listed before Oscar Isaac, but happy to see it.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac feels like, I don't know, maybe the kind of guy who was like, I don't, just put me somewhere in there. Like, I don't care where I go. His agent.
Well, I'm wondering if there was something in like the Force Awakens contract when Oscar Isaac was supposed to die in the first 5 minutes of the film, that's kind of like a carryover. He's still considered like a supporting player. Yeah, he's like, he's going to be relegated to.
He moved his meat, lost his seat.
Yeah.
Now you can't be, fourth, third anymore.
Yeah.
Third in the New Kids.
If you're in line to have your name in the credits, stay in line.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Although he is probably the biggest star now, but I mean, at the time, maybe this was just like, had this just come out on the heels of like something that everybody didn't like? Was there like the X-Men movie or some other thing that like...
There was an X-Men movie that came out that wasn't very good.
It was a while before this. Though.
Yeah, it was
a couple years like what came out right before this? Maybe he came out with something stinky right before this, and they're like, hey, you know what? We're putting him over you. Sorry.
Boyega up there.
And similarly, I was very surprised but pleased to see that Kelly Marie Tran made the cut of the like featured people who get highlighted in the front.
Yeah.
And that's got to be a carryover from her previous thing, because obviously she has, I think, 3 lines in the entire film. So
yeah, she has about as many lines as in the next minute, which we'll talk about later. She has about as many lines as the J.J. Abrams friends group.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I was pleased to see her too, and in the pre-roll actor names was nice to see her. Because this is like, obviously you guys have talked about this probably before during the show and everything, but it was still a disappointment. Like obviously disappointment how she was treated in this movie, and I just want to go on the record to say that How Star Wars Is It also doesn't like that.
Yeah, the movie is kind of like, we don't know what to do with you. We've never met you before.
Yeah,
because this movie didn't watch Last Jedi.
It literally comes down to them saying like, Rose, you want to come be in the movie? She's like, no, thanks, I'm going to stay here and read a book.
Yeah.
And that's what there is that scene.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Just going to read a book. Yeah.
But yes, happy to see her listed here. And and also happy to see, going back to things that happened at Celebration, the warm welcome that she got at Celebration a couple of years ago, where she just got a huge ovation from everybody.
Celebration is like the anti-internet. It's like you go there and everyone's all positive and loves each other and they're all totally supportive, and then you go on the internet and it's totally it's like a...
Mike and I hosted a Star Wars trivia. He's probably going to say the same thing as me. Yeah. Mike and I hosted a Star Wars trivia night not too long ago.
Yeah, it was May the 4th.
May the 4th, yeah.
Nice.
And we were just like pleased, so happy to have...
Finally got that.
Yeah. Yeah. We had like real life Star Wars fans in the audience who were all just so cool. Yeah. And we were having the thought of like, man, it's weird existing on the internet as a Star Wars like adjacent thing, because you get so much negativity and so much like toxicity, but then you go anywhere in person in real life and everyone is just like, I'm nice and cool. And it's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
real
very
life is different,
revitalizing, because we don't have a leg to stand on in terms of how long we've been doing a Star Wars show when we're in present company, but we're both also just sort of like, more of this. And that night was like, oh yeah, no, Star Wars is really cool.
Yeah. You guys have been going for a lot longer and have more to do than we do, but...
And you talk about Star Wars. We don't manage to do that terribly well anymore on our Star Wars podcast.
Half the time on our Star Wars podcast, we're talking about like, I don't know,
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo, random food objects, who knows?
Well, speaking of trivia, I understand, Mike, you've brought a game for us to play this episode.
Yes, that's right. We always play a little game on our show after our kind of commercial break. And in fact, when we had Pete on our show a while back, I made up a game called the Star Wars Minute Game, where I described a scene or a line of dialogue from Star Wars movies, and the two of you guys had to guess what minute of that movie they fell on. And Pete was scary good at it. He got the Empire one exactly right after even calculating for the fact that we were using the Disney Plus edition and not the original. And then 2 were 1 minute off on Phantom Menace and Force Awakens. So this is sort of a take on that game. It has to do. This is called the Minute 134 game, where we're talking about specific minutes of Star Wars movies, only minute 134. So my first question, this is just for the panel. Everyone kind of take your best guess. How many Star Wars movies even make it to minute 134? Which of course means on the playhead 133 and 0 seconds all the way to,
My guess is 3.
I was going to go one higher. I was going to go 4.
I'm going to say it's...
Name those movies.
I know Last Jedi is longer, if I remember correctly. So I know there's at least one there. I'm going to say 3 as well. I think it's 3.
Okay.
You can't take the same
This
answer. I
is
said 3
insane.
already.
Oh, yeah, so you have to pick a
say
different number,
3.
Josiah.
Fine, I'll say 2.
That's true.
Okay, you went the wrong direction.
Dang.
So, the answer is 8.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
And because,
Whoa.
okay, so a couple little caveats here. Rogue One is 133 minutes, so its 134th minute is its last 50-something seconds. And what are we talking about? Which versions of each are you using? I didn't count Return of the Jedi because its theatrical release was under 133, but its Disney Plus is over. Anyway, there it turns out are 8 movies. This is the sort of second part of the game here. So, Rogue One is, like I said, 133. Anybody have any guesses as to what happens in that minute? Again, it's the final minute of the movie.
Of the credits of the movie? Well, I'm just the credits.
it's the end of the credits.
Yeah.
Does it say like Lucasfilm production or whatever?
Yeah, it's got all the logos of the
Yeah.
productions. It's got Lucasfilm Limited at the very last thing. It says, Poe Dameron will return in.
Right.
The Avengers, yeah.
Let's see.
And
The next one is Solo. I'm going kind of in order of runtime. And I will say its total runtime is 135 minutes. So does anyone have any guesses as to what happens in 134?
Digital effects artists.
Yeah. The VP of marketing for one of the visual effects companies.
Don't get me started on the...
I wrote down specifically the Lucasfilm and Disney suits, like the executives of the companies. There's PAs. There's something called the Splinter Unit. Locations, carpenters, things like that. If we're noticing a pattern, the next one, Phantom Menace, is 136 minutes. So any guesses as to what happens in minute 134?
Credits!
Digital effects. Digital effects.
Model makers.
I'll mix it up by saying production babies.
Okay.
I don't think they do that on Star Wars. They should.
It is like scenic designers, scenic painters, other visuals crews, like creatures, makeup, models.
Hod modeler? Do we get a Hod modeler?
The next, I had my wires crossed
What are you going to pick?
when I was first writing these things down, but I had the wrong minute, but that was also the movie that Grant Imahara of the Mythbusters, as well as Adam Savage, but Adam Savage wasn't credited. That's the next minute. That's 135, so that doesn't even count. But
Wow.
He's the Harrison Ford of
uncredited.
Phantom Menace.
a carpenter, yes. And then, ILM is referenced in digital effects and animators. Force Awakens, 138 minutes. Minute 134, any guesses? Is this the most exciting game?
This is the most exciting game I've ever
Digital effects supervisor.
I was going to say end of the cast credits, but that might be too much. Thinking ahead in the movie that we're talking about now, and that we have another full week plus to go.
Yeah.
The cast credits might be way off.
Right. Josiah, do you have any guess?
I'm no.
It's electricians,
Pass.
dressing props, SFX tech, creature shop, animatronics, and production office.
Nice.
Oh.
Okay,
So
we
you
have
got
a couple.
Neil Scanlon in there?
I'm sorry. Oh, I don't remember any of the actual names, but
Okay.
probably.
Yeah. He's probably in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
The whole
now
point
we
of the
have a
credits.
kind of a weird one.
Hmm.
Revenge of the Sith with a 140-minute runtime. What happens in minute 134?
That could be cast.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's where the start of the roll. The rolling credits cast.
Oh, I see.
What was the total you said? 140?
It's 140 total, and this is minute 134.
I'm going to say it might be the beginning of the credits. Do we get the end? Or is that, no, that's too much. I'm wishful thinking on all of that. So I'm like, do we get the very last?
Yeah,
like,
Pete gets the point there. We do get the very beginning of the credits. In fact, we even get Obi-Wan giving Aunt Beru baby Luke, and the Larses doing the end of the Rise of Skywalker, where they look out at the sunset sunrise.
so look at that.
Totally.
So wait.
And then we
minute
get
one-
the like,
Right.
like written and directed.
So let's say minute 133, like the Lars Homestead and the Sons of Tatooine appear in at least 2 minute 133s.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Ring theory.
Whoa.
And it also, we get written and directed by George Lucas, produced by Rick McCallum, and executive producer George Lucas, and that's where that minute cuts off.
Rick McCallum, where is he now?
Boy.
You got in trouble once for saying he was in Czechoslovakia, and everybody's like, Czechoslovakia hasn't existed for like 30 years.
I'm at Yugoslavia.
He time traveled.
Yeah.
Only a couple more. Another fun actual one here. Attack of the Clones, 142 minutes, so minute 134.
Oh, what's very into that?
How does that movie end? Do they get married? Is it the wedding?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds.
Is that Attack of the Clones?
Sounds right.
That is that movie. But
The right.
I got the right movie.
The wedding has happened at this point, and the final bit is wait a second. This
Mike,
feels
this is your game.
wrong to me, but I watched it. So
All right, hey, let me call up my
that's what I was
administrative tools
using,
here,
in
so-
fact. It's
Oh, okay, good.
the orangey establishing shot of Coruscant. Obi-Wan and Mace Windu are talking, like, do you believe what Count Dooku said about the Sith and blah, blah, blah. And then Yoda ends the conversation with, begun the Clone Wars has, or the Clone War has. And then we see the clones kind of standing in formation, like, right before the minute
Forgot about
cuts
that.
off.
We stayed that battle, that setup for the other thing that's not a movie.
Right, yes,
They're just
right.
like, and here we go. Big army.
Yeah.
At what point do you think they stopped calling it the Clone War and called it the Clone Wars?
Like World War. Like the World War.
It's a good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
The
and it
Great
really
War.
only was one. That's a really good point. We always get stuck on the Phantom Menace, the operative.
Yeah, I always call it
article.
a Phantom Menace for some reason.
Yeah.
Which I think
Rise
is
of
a better name
Skywalker-
because. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Sorry,
Wait,
Rise of Skywalker. We're not even going to count because that's what we're talking about now. But the last one is The Last Jedi with 152-minute runtime, and minute 134 is. It's all movie.
That's got to be action.
Yeah. What happens near the end?
I'm going to say
Before-
it's Rey using the Force to lift up a bunch of rocks. Like so much sand.
I'm going to say maybe a little earlier. I'm going to say it's at Kylo Ren fighting Ghost Luke. Maybe that's too early. I don't know.
Canto Bite.
Yeah, I don't. That's way here. Yeah. I'm going to say it's Poe making prank calls to General Hux.
I think it's the
I think
Fight Club trailer.
yeah. What's in between the two? I think maybe I'll say it's them flying away from Crate. No, that's too early too. So before that, it's got to be before that. So it's them following the crystal critters.
Man. Okay, so two things. One, I have literally written down joke answer, Finn and Rose just get to Canto Bight. Because this movie is very long. That's not the answer. The answer is Finn and Poe realizing that Luke is stalling so the Resistance can escape, and they ask, where'd the crystal critters go?
Wow.
There we go.
So Pete yet again gets a dead on the money point.
You have a very
You would
specific
think.
set of skills.
Yeah.
You might think that I invented this format.
That's the end of that.
Yay.
Nice.
Yay. Well, I always feel the pressure when it's like I have to know. I'm like
right.
I felt bad about not realizing how many. Now that it's all water under the bridge, it's hard to go back and be like, really, those were all that long? But
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
well,
then.
yeah. Now that we're thanks for bringing that. Thanks for bringing that up. That made it sound negative, but no, honestly, thanks for doing that. I like that. We haven't done that in a while. Skipping around the different movies and
Yeah,
seeing what
right.
minute we're in.
Yeah.
I like that. And the new insight
Light speed
that
jumping.
Tatooine, the Lars Homestead, is in multiple minute 133s.
Yeah.
Is kind of mind.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and that
thunk
seemingly
it?
the prequels credits must roll faster or something.
Yeah,
Because we
very
got
fast credits.
minutes of film.
Well,
Like-
yeah, I think credits are just getting longer and longer in
Yeah.
general. I think we're going to achieve some kind of like tipping point where eventually it's just going to be like, it's going to be like going to a restaurant. It's going to be like, if you want to see who is in this movie, scan this QR code with your phone.
Yeah.
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 They already,
Otherwise-
do that at plays. Like nowadays, when you go to a
Yeah.
play, a lot of times they'll be like, for the full program, scan the QR code. Here's just
Oh,
one sheet kind of
exactly.
thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So,
We've lost
I think we-
romance.
but is it bringing it back to like, movie wise? I know play wise, I love poring over a good playbill,
Yeah.
but movie wise, just bringing it back to kind of, the classic, 40s, 30s, and it ends. It's like the end.
Right.
And like
Yeah.
there was some,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I could go both ways. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to tomorrow. Can you guys make it back tomorrow to talk about one more minute of credits?
Yeah.
One more, unless, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
All
we
right.
appreciate it. And hey, we mentioned that you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Patreon. There's also we do maintain social media accounts. At least as of this recording, we still do. So we'll see what. Usually we're at Star Wars Minute or the Star Wars Minute, depending on how fast we got there. And so look for us on your favorite social medium at one of those names. Or go to StarWarsMinute.com/Facebook to get to the Star Wars Minute Listener Society on Facebook. Alex and I are no longer there on any kind of basis, but there's lots of fun people talking about fun things. There's former guests of the show. There's a lot of Patreon supporters, listeners, all that stuff. It's a fun place to be. So go do those things. Come back tomorrow, and we'll meet you back here for a brand new Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.